44 Senate Democrats voted to reject a clean, nonpartisan continuing funding resolution to keep the United States government open. The Democrats said instead that they wanted to give health care to illegal aliens instead of keeping critical services provided for the American citizens. That's what happened, plain and simple.
Greetings to you all. Welcome to Red Ninja Network. I'm Mr. Red. You just heard a clip from Mike Johnson back in October of last year, and this is when they had the government shutdown. Mike Johnson got on TV and did what Mike Johnson does. He lied. Back then, Mike Johnson said that Democrats wanted to keep the government shut down to fund illegal aliens' health care. It was a complete lie. The truth of the matter is they wanted to put in subsidies so that people can continue to have health care and not pay these high premiums. I want you to know something. Our government is currently spending billions of dollars a day on a war that they did not ask for and that they were not talked to get into. And the amount of money that we are going to spend on this war, the amount of money that Pete Hegseth is asking for could have funded the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, could have funded the ACA subsidies for years to come. I'm talking almost 5 to 6 years for what they're asking for this war, even more. All right, and if we're at that point, then you might as well find a way to give everybody universal health care. But I wanted you to know that at that time, this piece of crap right here got on TV and said, oh, this was supposed to be a clean resolution, and the Democrats are not going with it. Well, the Democrats hold no office. They don't hold the Congress, the Senate, or the presidency, and then even the Supreme Court is conservative. And conservative is a loose word, okay? Why am I telling you all this? Because recently, the senator from Louisiana, Cassidy from Louisiana, got on to one of the talk shows and talked about what happened with the negotiations for funding DHS, which would have funded TSA. So we wouldn't have all these problems that we're having with these airlines.
Senator Cruz and I came up with a plan. We said, look, it's a two-step process. The Democrats have offered to open up everything but ICE. Ted and I said, okay, let's accept their offer. And then at the same time, we would offer a bill for reconciliation where we don't need any Democratic votes to do whatever we wanted to do with ICE. And that way we're out of the shutdown and DHS is back open. We submitted that, Senator Cthulhu submitted that to President Trump, as is his right. He said no deals with the Democrats. It would have worked. We could have had TSA paid by the end of the week, but the president said no deal.
Now, just like what happened in the last shutdown, the exact same thing happened in this shutdown. It was Donald Trump who said no to the Democrats on funding the policies. Particularly in this case, he didn't want to fund the government. He didn't want to fund DHS because he's using ICE as his personal Gestapo. He's using ICE as his personal military. When you hear any Republican get on TV now and say that it was the Democrats' fault, that we couldn't do this and that we couldn't do that, they all have the government. Republicans own every aspect of the government. Why do they need Democrats? Oh, you know why? Because not all of their members approve of what's going on right now. Not all of their members want to fund ICE because ICE has a bunch of people in it right now who are underqualified, who have itchy trigger fingers, and there's no leadership ensuring that ICE isn't going to illegally raid people's homes and or take out and murk Americans. This right here. We can't have shit right now because this president is a big baby. If it don't go his way, it don't go no way. And if you voted for this shit, what did you vote for? You cannot put any blame on Biden because he's been out of office more than a year now. And you can't put blame on the Democrats. It's y'all government. It is y'all shit. But yet, I guarantee you, somebody's going to get their ass up on there, and that's why I put Mike Johnson on there, because it would not surprise me if it's not Mike Johnson who doesn't get on TV and say it's the Democrats' fault. It's not going to surprise me if President Trump doesn't get on there and say, hey, this is all the Democrats' fault, because they want to make sure that our borders are open and criminals come in. So that's why they don't want to fund ICE. ICE has killed a number of people. ICE has detained people illegally. ICE has raided people's homes with no warrants. Of course, only an idiot would fund this shit. But the question we need to start asking ourselves is, what is it that Donald Trump actually wants with ICE? Why is he so set on funding ICE instead of getting these airports and everything back up?
So this was just sent to me, and it's extremely interesting. I don't know who wrote it, but it makes perfect sense. And Project 2025 did call for TSA to be privatized. So I'm just going to read this little snippet to you. Project 2025 explicitly calls for TSA to be privatized, but it cannot happen until unionized TSA agents are eliminated. It goes on. So here's the play. Defund DHS. Agents without pay will quit. Airport security breaks down. Massive delays. Send ICE to help push the narrative that this crisis requires privatization, framed as no cost to taxpayers. Private contractors come in. TSA unions are eliminated, and ICE becomes a permanent presence in American airports. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we see that happening right now.
Now, I have no clue who sent that, so cannot authenticate that, but we can say that these are the kind of things that you do see in Project 2025. The whole point is that a reason why a lot of these Republicans and right-wingers were in support of Trump, and the reason why a lot of them weren't speaking up, is because they were in favor of a lot of his policies. Don't ever let them fool you. This is why we can never put them back in office again, because they agree with the President Trump on most of the stuff that he's doing, even the bad stuff that has gotten people injured or hurt. They might say with their mouth that they don't care that people get hurt, but they realize that they support the policy. In their minds, a few eggs will get broken. But let's get back to something real quick. Privatizing stuff. This is what Republicans have wanted. Remember the last time that Trump was in office that he wanted to privatize the Postal Service? Think about this. I want you to think about something. This just came to my head. If Trump was able to allow the Postal Service to be privatized, and let's say, for instance, you want to go ahead and send your mail-in ballots, and just like every other company that has bent the knee to Trump, what's to not stop them from making sure your ballots don't get there on time? Now you have these cases up at the Supreme Court on whether or not mail-in ballots can be accepted after Election Day. Understand what I'm saying? You have a postmarked election ballot. You signed it, it's all legal. And it's postmarked before the election. But it doesn't get there until Election Day or until after election time is over. But you did it ahead of time. If you had a privatized mail service that answers to Trump, then why would any of your mail-in ballots get there on time? Understand how big this mail-in ballot thing is. And I'm not going to hold my breath to say that this thing is going to work or whatever. You have to understand, Trump, his profession is confession. I'm telling you, the mail-in ballots, these elections have been rigged and for Trump. And those mail-in ballots were the thing that he didn't account for, or that the people that helped him cheat didn't account for. So him being able to privatize the mail service, him being able to privatize ICE, being at the airport, stopping you from leaving, stopping America. Let's say you want to take off and leave. You don't want to deal with this thing. His personal military would go through your phone and all your stuff. And let's say that, you are left leaning or you're against this regime. And then they go ahead and check your shit. And next thing you know, oh, look at here. Look at this one. We're going to detain you off to the side. When I say this is an open air prison, I don't think you all believe me, but it really is becoming that. The biggest thing I want you to take away from today's video is that if you hear any of the Republicans or you hear Trump get up on TV social media, truthing, whatever you call that shit. And they tell you that it's Democrats' fault because the DHS isn't funded. Just remember, this man needs ICE. These are a lot of ICE people are desperate people who needed money. But moreover, this is why you don't hear the Proud Boys anymore marching in the street. This is why you don't see people with white robes talking. This is why you don't see all the nationalists. They all become part of ICE. And now he's going to use these people at the airports to stop people from who wants to leave the country? Really think about this. This is a very dangerous precedent. This is the kind of shit that happened back in the 1920s and 30s. Or correction, the 1930s. This is the kind of thing that the mustache man was doing. And now we're starting to see happen here. If you don't want to see your rights eroded away, then you have to speak up against this shit. You have to call it out when you see it. You have to realize that they're pulling the wool over your head. Everything with Trump benefits Trump. So when you hear something that he doesn't want to do something, he doesn't agree with something, always think about this. What does Trump get out of it? Stay vigilant, stay engaged, stay revolutionary.